And we're live. I'm joined
Hello.
by Digidop co-founder Florian. Um, I was an idiot, and I should say this right at the top of the stream. If you're looking at this on YouTube, you might see it says Digipop. It's not Digipop. And so I want to apologize to Florian, to anyone that's watching is like, wait, what? Jack's an idiot. Yes, I am an idiot. So thank you, Florian, for being so understanding. And I just want to set the scene right now that I will change that straight after this stream. Florian, welcome to the Slater session.
Thank you, Jack. So thanks for the introduction first. Like, it's right we joke around it, around Digipop. It's made a good introduction right now. We have like our own story about this special podcast. It's like,
Yeah,
it's cool.
it's cool in the sense that, yeah, we've got an icebreaker, but it's not cool that I messed that up. So,
Mm.
but no, let's talk about Digidop. So it's a French agency. It's a bit of a powerhouse recently. You've been creating a ton of content, and you came to Slater's attention, Mason and Jared and the team who are working on Slater, because you wrote, or your agency wrote, I should say, a killer article, and Thibaut Legrand wrote the article, I believe. Am I pronouncing his name all right?
Perfectly.
Okay, perfectly badly. And yeah, you wrote this killer write up, and it was epic. And then after that, we were like, okay, we've got to get Florian on a Slater session and understand how you're using Slater a little bit more in your agency. So, is there anything that I'm missing about Digidop that I should be adding, apart from that it's a powerhouse of an agency in France?
It's a good introduction, man. I would say like a great introduction. I would go maybe deeper right now to just give more context for people who don't know Digidop. But yeah, so feel free if you are live to ask your question. We have like your question here and we can answer it. The main goal of today is like, yes, sharing how we use Slater, but sharing also like the story of our agency, how we learn Webflow, how we learn HTML, CSS. We want to do like a really an open talk today with Jack to don't see like Slater just as a tool to write code, but also as a tool to give you some power on empowering you to learn better. So feel free if you're new into Slater or if you maybe new to Webflow to ask any question you have today. So first with Digidop. So to give you a bit of context, we are like an agent. We are a Webflow specialized agency. We are based in France. We launched Digidop almost 3 years ago right now with Thomas, which was a friend of me at this time. We were school friend at this time. Right now we are 9 in the agency, part design, part development. So we have like UX and UI designer, and we have also like developer. You mentioned content. Yeah, we are well known for content because since day one, we launch into this industry and start documenting everything. So that means when we go into this industry, we are lucky. We know perfectly how to speak English and understand English. So it was pretty easy for us to learn Webflow. But really soon, we understand that there are no content in French. And so we start documenting every learning day by day. It's make or we start by blogging, and after we start with YouTube, and right now we have like plenty of media and we share a lot of content. We are also well known for client first. I don't know if you use it, Jack. It's like the nomenclature of FinSuite, and we've helped a lot of French speaker to learn and understand client first. So yeah.
It's awesome. I'm just gonna share the website. It's in the chat, but I'll also just show you the website, and we have a little scroll. I use client first as well. Are you looking at my screen now?
Yeah, nice
Awesome.
website.
It is a nice website, hey? So yeah, I wonder who designed it. Yeah, so if we have a little scroll, you're a client first expert, which I think is pretty important to shout out because all the incredible work that FinSuite do now you're getting recognized as a partner with them. And I believe you actually translated client
Yeah.
first, right? Yeah.
For the story, like I was in the first boot camp, like we were like 5 people, and at this time, it was the start of Digidop. I've learned web development by using Webflow. So I feel so my first website wasn't like really clear in terms of scalability. It wasn't using client first, and since I heard client first, I just I remember I reached at this time like Joe Krug and his team to say, okay, I would love to go to this boot camp. I would love to learn good basics around web design, and yeah, I've learned with them, and after being certified, I really understand how powerful it will be for the future, like this nomenclature. And we discussed with Joe to translate it for like French people. I've made that with Thibaut Legrand, which you mentioned at the start of the live. And Waina, we've just started like last week to do our first live build, like explaining client first in live build on our YouTube channel, and people really appreciate it. So it's good to learn, document, and share, and keep doing that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting that I've noticed that you, as an agency co-founder, and also the rest of your team seems to be making a lot of content. And just like FinSuite, they're making tons of content, but they're also empowering their employees to
Exactly.
actually make the content as well and be kind of their own identified like brand persona within FinSuite, if that makes sense. And vice versa with you. It's really cool how you're like empowering your team to make content, share what they're learning as they're learning it for the benefit of the community, but also to become knowledge leaders in the space. And I'm sure that helps client stuff. I'm sure that helps give people a sense of purpose when they're working for your agency as well, to help other people. It's just like a win-win-win. So really, really powerful stuff there.
Cannot more agree. It's also a really good win in terms of our in our agency. Let's take the example of Thibaut. You mentioned Thibaut at the start of the article because he write this article. Like on my side, I'm not the most technical in terms of JavaScript in the team. Like we have like Lucas and Thibaut, which is far better than me in terms of JavaScript implementation, and it's really important for them to still documenting that. Like that, I can just read it, understand it, and understand what they are capable of. And if sometime I'm building something and I'm struggling with something, I can pretty easily learn from them. So yeah, they help the community, they help to reach our SEO, share our knowledge, get some inbound lead, but they also help me, and I also help them when sometimes I just share content which will be like used by the team.
Yeah, super, super powerful, because the content that you make also helps the rest of your team as well.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the other thing. It's like you're
100%.
documenting what you're learning for your team as much as the community. So it's really, really powerful, right?
Yeah. We have a lot of fun around that, especially with design, because we are like part design, part development team. And so there are a lot of questions, like designer ask question for developer and developer ask question for designer. And we say each time you have that kind of question, do a documentation. And like that, we just share it internally. It's helped a lot. And we have a lot of fun about that. Like someone asked a question in the Slack and we just answer him with like, Jude, you didn't read my blog article or you didn't see my YouTube video. Like it's just a joke around because we know like before being, it's really hard to check everything before being in the context you need it. But when you need it, you have the resource. So it's cool. And,
yeah, you can just send literally the content that you make to your colleagues, and the quality is going to be better because you've like put effort into it. I see a few people in the chat, by the way, Jeff and Thibaut, the man of the moment. We've been talking a lot about you. But yeah, super, super powerful stuff. And I would add to that, in the context of Slater, we're going to be doing a points-based program. So anyone that's making content around Slater, obviously for all the reasons we've just said, generating client leads, helping your colleagues, also having a sense of purpose by helping the community, all of that stuff's great. But what if you got paid to do it? Well, that's what we're trying to do with Slater. So if you are making content, or interested in making content, now is a great time. And if you want to write an article, just like Thibaut has done, or make videos, or make clonables, even like Andrea Morgan, we're going to be starting. Ooh, almost lost my mic there. We're going to be starting to reward people for doing that. Thomas, as well, the Slater 2 content will be precocious to begin with. Ooh, interesting word there. Thomas, you might have to explain that for us in the chat. But yes, and since we've been talking about content creation and Slater, let's get on to a little bit about how Digidop is using Slater within the agency. Can you tell us a little bit about why you started using Slater, maybe?
Yeah, sure. So first, like to give a bit of context, how we see Webflow today, like it's far different from the beginning. Like when I start open my first Webflow, I don't know, like first, did you use Webflow? You build in Webflow a lot, Jack?
Yeah. I was a freelancer before doing
Okay.
more content stuff for Edgar Allan. So yeah.
Okay, and you have a dev background, or you discover like a Webflow by using no-code tools?
I'm a designer background. I think this is quite a common path for Webflowers, is that you have like design, you're interested in design, you want to make
Okay.
your designs more specific to the actual design in Figma,
Yeah.
and you try out Squarespace and you try out Wix, and you're like, yeah, it's
Mm.
not quite like, I can't do animations, I can't, on mobile, I want to change this, and then go from there. Was that your experience?
No, like our experience was like far different. We launched our first business ID with Thomas, my associate, and during this launch, we just like looking for a website builder. So we compare like Wix, WordPress, Shopify, and Webflow. And during this time, like when I discover Webflow and start watching video on Webflow, I see like they got really a vibe into Webflow. Like everyone was talking about Webflow, there's something in. So I say, okay, I think there's something in that. We start building our first website in Webflow. And when we discover the tools, we say, okay, we need to pivot our business and make the Webflow business. It will be like a huge tools in the next years. So this is the way we dive into it. And first we get to our first client, second client, fourth client, and we start specializing into it. We were really like on the niche market at first. So we learned SEO, CMS, and we were really well known for building CMS website with a business vision and optimize for SEO. And after we hire our first SEO or first designer and start building the agency and the service around, let's say. And what's interesting, it's like we didn't have like a design background and we didn't have like a dev background. We have just a marketing background and we see the tools, how we can empower company. And so at first I was really into the no code. I have the feeling like, I build without having knowledge in no code. But right now I didn't see Webflow anymore like that. I really see Webflow as a tools, as a code tools, like it's HTML on the left, CSS on the right, and you can easily edit code. So I see that really as a technical tool right now, not a no-code tool anymore. By optimizing our process and stuff, we start like learning how to do like CSS animation, JavaScript animation, because needs of the client, but also because sometimes the website is more editable in that way or is more scalable if you build in that way. So I learned HTML and CSS with Webflow, and I start learning to go deeper and to go like next level by doing. ChatGPT helps a lot. When ChatGPT, like we have like a lot of phenomenon, like at the beginning of Digidop, we were like, oh, if one time we can have a JavaScript developer, it will be crazy. We will do like that. And when ChatGPT comes, okay, it's not a JavaScript developer, but it helps us a lot to learn and to go to just this next step. And right now, I'm more seeing like it will be a good introduction for Slater, but it's also like the way I see Slater today, like an extension for JavaScript. Like Webflow is really a one interface tools for HTML and CSS, but it's not built for
Custom code.
JavaScript. Yeah, it's not the purpose, because like there are like already plenty of things just for HTML, CSS extension and stuff. You can see it's not built in first mind for custom code, but right now with like the needs we got, could be cool to have a tools who extend that, but extend that in a collaborative way, because it's important. We are like a team, and for us, it sees what's the most important. As I say to you, I'm not the most advanced in the team on JavaScript, but I want to benefit. I don't know how to say in English, but yeah, take advantage of the whole team knowledge and the great tools which permits us to have like all our knowledge in one platform could be nice.
Wow. Yes. You teed this up perfectly. Yeah. I think this is, a lot of the stuff that you're saying really seems to be quite a trend with agency owners that are like, okay, we want to do more advanced Webflow websites. We've pushed the boundaries of the website enough now within the native capabilities of Webflow, and we want to do custom code in Webflow. And obviously, you can do that with, VS Code. There's plenty of AI tools, GitHub Copilot, etc. But I think the fact that Slater is specifically designed for, Webflow users, built by a Webflow agency, used by Webflow developers, really gives it a kind of helping hand from both getting the custom code, making sure that there's just a very simple embed link, and also the learn element of Slater is really important because, like you said, a lot of Webflowers aren't necessarily coming from a custom code background. So
Clearly,
it's really
and clearly, and you said like the learn part is one thing that we really love with client first is, okay, I can take a build from anyone who built in client first. I immediately understand the build. So for HTML and CSS, it's perfect. But if I don't know JavaScript and I jump into a project and I see like a lot of custom code, I don't know what's up, what this code do. But I can just like take Slater, say, okay, explain me this code, and he will explain me the code, and I will say, okay, so this action is made by this. So it helps me to clearly understand like a build I have made from scratch, because it was another guy on the team who do it. And yeah, understand it immediately. And okay, I'm able to fix the problem if they have a problem, or maybe the clients, it's really important also, like the clients understand what we've made, and we can say to him, look, you have a tools here inside your website builder, inside one interface, which can explain you all the code, which can debug the code if there are a bug. You didn't need us anymore, so you are like, you are on power. You have like client first, you understand your HTML and CSS, and you have like Slater, you understand your JavaScript, and the client is happy. Maybe we'll never use it, but it feels like, okay, I can take my...
You can breathe.
Yeah, I didn't need them, so it's cool.
Yeah, really, really important. And I'm really glad how passionate you are about it, because it's kind of weird when, you spend a lot of time like I didn't personally make the tool, but I spend a lot of time like talking to people about it. And it's so awesome to see how passionate people are. So thanks for sharing like why you are as excited about Slater as we are. If anyone in the chat has any questions or anything, feel free to drop them in there. And Florian, should we have a look? Do you want to share your screen, and maybe we could have a little look at how you're using Slater a little bit more? Is that okay?
Yeah, I can like personally, like I can share to you right now what's our workflow, like what was our workflow maybe before Slater, like how we work with JavaScript integration, how we work with custom.
That would be great. Yeah, I feel like because I also realized that maybe there's stuff that you can't actually share on the live stream with client work and stuff. It might be like, Jack, I can't actually share that. But yeah, for anyone that's kind of like trying to understand Slater a little bit more and how it might fit into their workflow, I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I think what can help today people, it's like just explain them, okay, how we work as an agency before, how we can work tomorrow, because we see also like still improvement in Slater to, help us to better collaborate and stuff, but maybe it will give you some more context. I just let you confirm me, like you got my screen.
Yeah, I will add you to the stage. Yes, we're looking at your screen now.
Okay, nice. So until now, as I say, we are like a team of 3 developers in Digidop, and we have like a library of custom code, which is on Notion. Okay. So here it's like, okay, if you need that, you have like here is like a CSS animation, JavaScript animation, CSS. You can filter it anyway. So you got your node and you can got your custom code. Make sense to you?
Yep.
Like it
Yep.
can, it can be like something really easy or something more advanced.
Mhm.
And why not? Like if I need to create a new one, I don't know how to do it. I will use I will use EA like ChatGPT. I've prepared like an example for you, which is really easy to understand. It's like a CSS animation. We can, like, a lot of people understand this kind of animation because you can do it natively with Webflow. It's like just another animation. Okay, so you can explain, you can ask. I don't go into GS, because I think GS is like a really advanced, and some people will maybe be lost. So I think it's better to start understanding how to use it with CSS, and after we go maybe with GS. Makes sense
Yep.
for you?
Sounds great.
Okay. Okay, nice. So here it's like just an animation, and we ask like to ChatGPT to understand, okay, and stuff. And after we need to get back to Webflow, we need to integrate it in Webflow. Oops. We need to integrate it in Webflow in any way, and so we need 3 tools, and after we need to publish it, taste it, etc., etc. Right now, like what's good with Slater is like we can start like prepare a library inside our Slater account as an agency. And tomorrow we hope that this library will be integrable will be like an integration possible via Webflow apps. And via Webflow apps, we can just launch our Slater account maybe. And here, like having our Notion documentation centralized here inside one interface, like all the team can get. We can have also, like, as I mentioned to you, like the explain code, debug code function. And this is still, let me know, Jack, if you want me to go on a specific topic. But
Dude, you're on a roll. I'm enjoying this. You
okay.
you talk away. It's really interesting what you're saying. So carry on.
Okay, thanks. So here is like we can have everything in one interface, and one interface, which is Webflow. What's good is like right now, how I see it, it's like, okay, here on the left, I got my HTML things. On the right, I got my CSS. And on the center, I got Slater, who helped me to understand advanced animation, to help me got my custom code library, and to get also like my ChatGPT inside my Webflow. So we can integrate like 3 tools in one. As I said to you, I was using Notion, I was using ChatGPT, I was using like Slater application, like the web application before, where we got like, take the example like the Digidop project and all things. And right now we can just centralize everything into one interface, collaborative and sharing. It's like, yeah, the all-in-one.
It's the all-in-one. I love that. Yeah, that's great. And
I didn't have like prepare like some custom code to showcase deeply, because I think like I think we didn't need today to just focus on what we can build with JavaScript and with custom animation and stuff. I think we can first think these tools as Webflow does with like the no-code movement, the no-code learning, like a tools to help to collaborate more, to help to learn GS, to help clients got solution and feeling like, okay, I can understand this, I can understand this. And I don't know if it makes sense to you, but for us as an agency, we think it's the best first step into this tool.
yeah, that makes tons of sense. I mean, I think so. Just to recap some stuff, if
Yeah.
people are watching this and haven't necessarily used Slater, you can open Slater in a new tab, or you can open Slater within the Webflow app marketplace.
Yeah.
And what's important to say there is that obviously within the Webflow app, inside Slater app within your Webflow project, you've got the core functionality of prompting, getting custom code,
Yeah.
learning. But if you open up the app in a new, if you open up Slater in a new tab, obviously you've got a wider screen. There's more UI, and you can do slightly more things like invite team members, etc., etc. But the core features like we've just talked about, Florian's just talked about there, like prompting, getting the custom code for your Webflow project, you can do within the app.
Yeah, sorry, I haven't showcased that, but yeah, that's right. It's really a tool who will write the code for you. It's like made generate by IA. So you do a proper prompt, you got your code, you can test it live. I haven't mentioned that, but it's really cool. Like you got the immediate result. It's like in Webflow, you build, you can see visually like the CSS and what's going on. And with Slater, you can visually see if your animation works or not. It's not like you need to save, publish, go live, see on live if it's working, debug if you need to debug. You have all in one. That's exactly why on my side, I really seen the potential of Slater in like an extension as Webflow for JavaScript. Like Webflow helps a lot of people as me to learn HTML and CSS, and tomorrow Slater will help and develop faster and better. And tomorrow, I think Slater will help a lot of people to get into custom animation. Like not necessarily like you don't need to go like for crazy animation, just custom simple animation first to start familiarize yourself with that. Test it, learn it, and yeah.
Yeah, it's a really, really interesting point there. It's like Webflow has helped people that don't necessarily know how to do HTML and CSS, like given them a kind of crash course by virtue of it. You practically learning. You know, you're doing it.
Yeah.
As a result, you're learning from your mistakes in real time, and vice versa with Slater. I agree. I feel like the same thing is happening with all sorts of different coding languages, from JavaScript, jQuery, whatever.
I know that like you're like familiar with JavaScript, Jack?
No, I mean
No?
I'm just a marketing guy.
Okay.
It's interesting actually because Mason, I was like, when he hired me to help promote Slater, I was like, are you sure that I'm the right guy for this? Because like I'm not, you know, I'm not a coder. Like I'm a guy that's used Webflow and can do basic stuff, but I'm not the person that can really drive this. And he was like, actually, that's why we want to hire you, because you are someone that is a lot like the type of audience that we're trying to talk to. But yeah, sorry, what was your question there aimed at?
No, I think this question like make a lot of your answer make a lot of sense because it's exactly how I see Slater. You know, like before joining this live and before discover the tools, I've watched like some of the live you made, and it's like really high custom level of website. And when we look Slater in that way, okay, we see that just as a way to improve our workflow, develop faster, develop better. But I think Slater have a really powerful role to play in just like for you and me, like 1 year before, didn't know anything about JavaScript and how I can go into it without fear, because I'm helped by tool will help me to, you know, go into my JavaScript journey.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like just to say as well, though, as much as Slater is very much, you know, important for Webflowers that don't necessarily know how to code, one big reason why Slater wasn't initially like, oh, we're going to make this for the community. Slater was an internal tool so that Edgar Allan could make projects with custom code in Webflow easier. And I'll just share the screen and show you the project, which was essentially the catalyst for this to happen. It was called Letter Run. And you guys might have seen it because it was on Twitter.
Awards of the year. It was
Yeah,
an awards of the year.
Yeah. Okay. So it actually won an award eventually. Yeah. And it's a pretty insane tool. Pretty insane website. But you know, for a Webflow project to have this type of capability, obviously there is a lot of code. I'm not sure if I'll turn off the sound for this, but you know, you've got a little Eduardo, the little EA logo, and you know, imagine how much custom code you're going to need for this. Imagine the amount of team members that are doing this type of project all at once. So there's all these problems that Edgar Allan faced, and they were like, okay, we're going to need something to make it easier for our
Hmm.
dev team to work together. And then that's how it came about. So if you're looking to do, very much more advanced stuff, Slater is very capable to do that, and it's designed for people to take their websites to the next level. But if your next level, as someone that's watching this live stream right now, maybe might be a little bit more like me, who's like, I just want to do a little GSAP animation. Can I do that with Slater? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
It's a very good place to start,
Yeah.
because you can ask, in baby language, hey, Slater, target this attribute. I want this to happen. And that can really, really help you learn from there.
Exactly, and let me maybe share my screen again. Tell me if you got it. I would just maybe showcase one stuff. Yeah, nice.
So I'm sharing it now.
We can take the example, like you share a beautiful website, this one, like later on, I don't know if people open it, but it's like a really high animated website. And me as a developer, like first thing when I saw that, I'm like, oh, how they build that. And if I can have an access to the Webflow build of this website, I will open it and I can imagine like it's nothing what I will share right now, but I can imagine they will have like plenty of code into the body tag and stuff, and I would not understand anything. But with the tools as Slater, I can just say, okay, this is a small example, but it's just to explain how I see the tools as a learning way. And I would just like say to Slater, like maybe, okay, I would send him the code. Up. I will say, okay, I want chat with Slater, and I will ask him, okay, please explain the code. And he will just like explain me the code. Yeah. Okay. Speak with me in French.
And just to say as well that you can actually ask, for anyone that's watching and is like, does this do different languages? Yes, it does. You can specifically ask it to speak to you in Korean or whatever other language you're trying to learn.
That's cool. That's really cool. And as I can say to you, as I can show you, like I just ask him, can you please explain me the code? And he will give me like a breakdown of the code. It will explain me like what's the variable, like really the basics of JavaScript. But like if you're new to JavaScript, you see that, it can scare you. There's nothing scary about it, but it can scare you. And with a tool like that, you can say, okay, so I have a tool inside Webflow who helps me to understand each animation, each project, and I can see it visually. So it's a good way to break barrier, I think, and start your learning process of going deeper and going to the next level of animation.
Yeah. And another thing to mention as well is that obviously with Webflow, in terms of custom code natively in Webflow, you have 10,000 character limit.
Yeah.
So
Right.
for a project like Letter Run, you're screwed, like you obviously need somewhere else to be able to type more than 10,000 characters. So that's another reason. Not the big selling point, but it's just something to be aware of.
No, but this point for me, like I like the fact that Webflow is not built in first way for custom code. That's why, like this limitation is a proof that Webflow natively is not built just for doing deep into that kind of custom. But that's cool and great to have new tools you can implement to Webflow and to make this ecosystem better.
Yeah, definitely. And this is part of, I think, what's really, really exciting about Slater as well, is that Slater is one app in the Webflow app marketplace of many, many different apps which are filling holes. But what's even cooler is that Slater is helping other people make apps to fill more holes.
That's right.
It's like an app which helps other people make apps to help the Webflow space grow and thrive even more. So it's like this double whammy for me. I'm just like, that's, people are making apps from the app. I'm just like, it's like Inception for apps, guys. Why?
And I think it's in the DNA of Webflow. I've watched like a talk about that, and it was by Yeah, it was saying like I'm seeing Webflow as a website builder first, but right now they got like things like a member stack who's built just
Mm.
for Webflow, and it's a business built on top on Webflow, and there are
Yeah.
plenty of there are business built on top of Webflow, and you have also tools built for Webflow who contribute to make the system grow and make the ecosystem of Webflow grow. And there are no limits. The community is amazing. Like everyone building so crazy stuff, and like right now, Webflow count on doubt. I don't know if you've seen this reel from Joe, but he say like Webflow just hired like 100 developer by opening.
Yeah. That
So
was
real.
such a clickbait video because I clicked on it and I was like, wait, Webflow have hired loads of developers, and then he was like, by
That
virtue
great.
of the app marketplace. I was like, okay. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, it is really true. We've got a question from Thomas. He says, oh, he's one of your guys.
Yeah,
So if
yeah,
I
it's my associate. It's my associate.
Okay, nice. So if I understand from a designer eye, Slater is like an assistant to take Webflow one step further. Thomas, that's really good copy. I might have to use that on the website, because that is exactly it. We've been using the phrase supercharge your Webflow websites with custom code. But yeah, I like this idea of Slater being like a world-class expert sat right next to you, helping you to bring your Webflow projects a step further. So yeah, exactly. It is like an assistant to take your Webflow projects one step further. Really
Yeah.
powerful tool.
And yes, that's right. Because like Thomas really, he didn't develop in Webflow. He's taking care of the design part. So
Mm.
that's always good question and good vision to compare the tools from their eyes, because they are not into it as us into the Webflow build. And to add something is, for me, it's not just like one step further for your board. It's also one step further for your team, because I can collaborate easily with Thibaut and Lucas. I have an eye on their project, what they build. It can be explained for me like really easily. We can build a library we're going to share. So yeah, great stuff for our team.
Awesome. I'm psyched that you're psyched. Another thing to mention just off the back of that as well is that we're currently working on I shouldn't say we. Jared is currently working on a feature for a community library. So right now in Slater, you can save code snippets to a personal library, which means that you and other team members can access that bit of code if you keep using it. For example, I don't know, a slider. You might have slide bit of code for a slider, and you keep using that, so you might want to save that. So Florian's got this Notion doc, which has tons of different code snippets, which I'm sure your team can access.
Yeah,
But
sure.
what you can do is obviously move that into a personal library.
Yeah, it was on my point of worth improvement of Slater. So I was just giving some feedback of my side, and
No,
that's cool.
it's
You work on that.
It's great. It's really important thing to say, because this is what a lot of
Yeah,
people have talked about. And then what's
exactly.
cool from there is you've got a personal library, and then you'll be able to share that code to a
Nice,
community library.
nice,
So we've got all of this Webflow knowledge right now,
nice.
which is kind of siloed, right? You've got all these different people with their own Notion libraries, their own code snippet libraries in Notion, or they might have them in VS Code, or they might have them in ClickUp, or whatever, right? And what we need to do is to hopefully kind of harness the power of the community, so that there's a kind of Wikipedia of code snippets that you can easily just drag and drop into your projects.
That's great. That's great. Like, because we got like take the example, we got like some couple of snippet code we use on all of our project, and one time we were thinking, okay, maybe we need to create our own client first clonable, and like that it will be a clonable of client first with our own like snippet of code, because we use that kind of code on each of our project. But if a tool like Slater permit us to create our own custom code by default on our build, it's like time saver for us as agency, and we're sure to do not forget this kind of custom. I got an example really really easy, but one kind of custom code we can need is like just a custom CSS. Take the example of the underline. It was a feedback from Luca on our team. Like the underline of Webflow by default is really, really close to the text.
And you
And
can't edit that without using CSS. Yeah.
exactly. And on Figma, when you use underline, it's not the same underline. So our designer on the team,
'cause
when
you
the
need.
underline stuff,
Yeah.
they're like, hey guys, on the development team, what did you don't see? They're like that and they're like that. And we say to them, but look, when we do it with Webflow and when the client need to edit it by himself, so by their own, it's not working. So, it's a bit of code, like just a small code to custom that part. But it's good to have that onto a library you can share with like a team community. It would be great
Yeah.
initiative.
See, that's the thing with Slater that right now I think is really exciting. There's people that aren't necessarily looking to custom code a whole website. Like they've got Webflow, they just need little bits and bobs, right?
Yeah.
So that's exactly the kind of example that we want in the community library. We've got a couple of questions in here. So Philip Trott, strong name, love that name. When I learned about Slater, I started looking into JavaScript courses on Udemy. I know this isn't necessary to use Slater, but would it help? And then he adds, because I want to be more proficient with tools like Slater and Wiz by FinSuite. Florian, what's your take on that?
Okay, so my take on that is first, I think it's really hard to learn. It's my perspective, but it's really hard to learn business web design development without being in the context. Like you will see a Udemy courses, it will teach you about JavaScript, but it will be like far from you. I think the best way to learn is going into your build, say, okay, I want to copy this compartment, I want to copy this website, and I want to reproduce this. And to reproduce it, you will go into the Webflow designer and you will use Slater as, okay, I want to create this compartment. I want to create this compartment. It will give you the code. You will say to him, okay, explain me the code. You will implement it. You will test it. You will see, okay, it's working or not. And you will learn in that way. It's really how I've learned web development. I think it's a good and great way to learn because first, it costs you almost nothing comparing to buying some courses which you don't know the quality. And second, you're already proud of yourself because, you doing by yourself, you're learning live, and it's more like a game. It's not just you sitting like that, hearing some stuff. You didn't know if you will use it or not. You are into it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's a lot of great courses out there, and it's not to say that there aren't things that you can't learn on Udemy. Of course there's helpful things, but I think the practical element of learning by doing is gonna mean that one, you're interested because you're actually making something that you can see a tangible result, and you're like, okay, like this is learning, like I'm learning through seeing the action happen. And then also you can actually make stuff like in a very short space of time. You can go from someone that knows absolutely nothing to someone that's made a game. For example, we literally launched a game challenge, and there are people that are making stuff who don't know custom code that are suddenly, you're like, wow, you can get 0 to a good, like, a tangible working level quite fast by just getting your hands dirty and getting in.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything to add there?
Yeah, maybe Philip, if I add something, because it's right, like Jack got right on that. There are like a lot of great content and it's helpful. And maybe it's my opinion, but maybe you can use it in a second part. Like first you try, you start playing with that. And when you start like being really into it, right now you say, okay, I need to improve on that, and you can focus more on the courses. And because your mind will remember I was, block on that, I didn't know how to do that, and I didn't know how to do that, you will be more efficient in the way you will learn your courses. But it's just my opinion. And I see you mentioned like Wiz by FinSuite. You have plenty of content around JavaScript made by FinSuite. So before going to Udemy, maybe check on what they do, because like there are plenty of good content made by their teams.
Yeah, I would also add, how often have you finished a course? Like,
yeah, good question.
let's be really honest with ourselves. Like, I generally will look up content when I have a problem. Like, I'm like, okay, I need to get from
how
A
to How to?
Yeah. And that's when I'll learn. So like, you might as well just get in, try and make something, try and be like, okay, I'm going to try and make a slider. Okay, that's my goal. And you're going to, you know where you're trying to get to, and then you're going to actually go from there. I don't know if you've ever like learned to swim, but the best way to learn to swim is to just get in the water
Yeah.
and try. And then once you've got in the water and you know, okay, I know that breathing's a
I need
problem.
to.
I know, yeah. Like no one learns to swim by being like, okay, I'm going to watch a Udemy course. No, that's not going to really help. So I'd recommend, like Florian said as well, get in the water, get into Slater, start a free trial. Why not? Try it out. And then you can learn from doing. And then after you've hit problems that maybe you can't overcome, that's when maybe investing in a course or something a little bit deeper might make more sense, in my opinion. But try it out. I mean, whatever works for you. Everyone works differently. Everyone learns differently.
Yeah.
So, yeah, worth saying that.
Did it answer the question, Philippe? Thanks, guys, for the perspective. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. I'm really glad. By
Thanks
the
for
way,
your question.
yeah, great question. If anyone else has got any questions as well, guys, feel free to ask away. There's, yeah, I think that's it questions wise for now. Can I ask you a question, Florian? So what is you've talked about the advantages of Slater. What if you were head of product at Slater? I'm interested to know, what would you do next?
So first, I will integrate natively the library into the Webflow apps, because like right now when you are on the Webflow apps, you are just on your project. Actually, you cannot access to the whole project library. So it will be cool to can search and add like custom code you add on other project. Because I haven't mentioned this, but sometimes you say, okay, I need to build this. I remember I've built it for a client before, and you just dive into his old project, take the code, copy, paste. So if you can access to all your project from one screen because you are into the Webflow apps and can take the code, it will be a nice time saver. So it will be cool to have that features. Second thing, it will be cool to have like a more collaborative way to exchange into like this one interface. I didn't have like proper features, but I will have more like a vision of how the tools can be, so how we can exchange. But you introduce some good stuff with like the community and stuff. Yeah.
I was just going to ask you, when you say collaborative features, are you talking about like maybe different people that are typing have different colored like text box, so you know who's edited what code? Is that the type of thing I'm thinking? Like if FigJam meets Slater, is that what you're talking about?
It could be nice, but I don't know how it's. I'm not as technical to, I don't know like how difficult it is to build these filters natively into your apps. This could be nice for sure. But first, for me, the most important things is like having a library where you can search, and by searching, access to plenty of custom code already done by your agency or done by the community. Like you have like two tabs, one my agency, one the community, and you can search on that from one interactive panel. It will be amazing for sure. And the second thing, it's I will work on the UX and UI interface, because I want this kind of features to be had, and to be had in a good way. So maybe a larger screen view, like, okay, I'm into Slater, I need to focus on that. Like I will have like the possibility to open it in a larger screen view on my Webflow build, because you mentioned like website where you need like more than 10,000 character code, and if you need that, like actually the Slater app view is a bit small, so you need to scroll, be really focused. If you have a larger screen view, it could be more practical for us to work on it.
Great points. Okay, so a few things you said there. One, community library coming, very important feature, something a lot of people have talked about. So that is coming, guys. and I was just checking Slack while you were talking just to find out updates. So hopefully I'll know more in a second. Second thing you talked about was having collaborative elements within Slater. So maybe you know which team members have edited which bit of code. That could be a really interesting feature that I'll bring to the product team. And then the third thing that you mentioned there was the actual iframe of Slater within the designer there. So potentially having something which could be bigger. I know that the iframe, when you open an app within the designer right now, it's within an iframe, which comes with its own problems, but potentially there could be an extension that you could just open, more like FinSuite have done. But anyway, I will bring that feedback back. Really helpful, guys. If anyone has any other comments or questions in the last few minutes of this live stream, feel free to drop them in the chat. Thomas says, actually it's Thomas, isn't it? Because you're French. Sorry.
Yeah, but you can say Thomas. It's cool. We are.
Okay.
We are.
I know that this is like an international, but I also am very conscious that you're speaking your second language. We've got people in the chat from probably who are your fans supporting French. I'm just an idiot English guy. Could Slater create a public library that community members could share? So I didn't explain the community library element very well, but what will happen is you'll have your personal library within Slater. So you might have different bits of code. And what you can then do is click to share that piece of code or that page of code to a public library, which will be within the Slater app. So yes, there will be a public library that community members can share there.
As Figma or Webflow, like you can showcase your project and get some template from both sides. It will be a great feature. There's also Jeff who say like a Google Doc for GS code. Personally, I didn't see it just as a Google Doc for GS code. I see it more like, I don't know if you use take the example of the Radium library. You have like a library of component, which is like, okay, I need this kind of component and I can have plenty of layout with this component. And I say, okay, I need to create this kind of animation and I will have like plenty of code, which permits me to do that, or that. And I can choose on this kind of library. I see it. I think Radium made a great job for the UI part and the HTML, like really the HTML part of Webflow. I imagine the library in the same way for custom code with Slater. Don't know if it answers your question.
Yeah, Jeff, if you want to elaborate, if that answers the question, then great. But I think that's probably what he's asking about there. Okay. So I'm going to put in the Slack, guys. I'm going to put the Slater Slack in the channel now. So if anyone wants to ask any questions or maybe has started a free trial with Slater and is like, Jack, I need to ask some questions to someone that knows about code, or I'm hitting a roadblock with my project. We actually have Jared and Whit from Edgar Allan that answer questions there. So if you guys hit any roadblocks with projects, then you can ask it in the Slater Slack. So I'll put that in the chat now. And the other thing to say is that on Twitter, we're active. We want you guys to DM with any feedback or questions as well. So feel free if you guys want to give any feedback, thoughts. If you guys make any products or anything from Slater, we want to know. And you will be very soon rewarded with I can't say too much about it, but basically there's loads of good stuff coming. So
nice teaser.
Yeah, it's a great time to be involved. Thibaut says, Slater is already a really cool and helpful tool, and I can't wait to see how it proves in the future. Same here. It's awesome. We're on the way. I feel like what's cool as well is that everything is so early in this whole like Webflow 2.0 that I feel like Slater is part of. Webflow is suddenly like, okay, we have all these different directions that you as a community are asking for us to build, and now build it yourself. Like if it's that important, then you can build on top of the platform, and Slater is hopefully going to really aid that as well.
Yeah, as you can say, that's why it's a great tool, because it's come from the first wave of the tools built on Webflow, but it's the tools who empower people to build more on Webflow. So that's a great way to start. It's not just a finish point; it's just giving more power to people to go
further.
and to get further. And we'll see where Webflow will be, but we can see how it is actually and where it come from, and we are pretty confident in what's next.
Yeah, and also the AI feature as well. I mean, if you imagine right now you're typing a prompt and you're getting code, but right now the code that you're getting isn't specifically speaking with your Webflow project as you might like.
Yeah.
Now imagine very soon you'll connect your Webflow project, and then the AI will just scan your project, know what your attributes are named, know, maybe what you're trying to do clearer because it can scan your project. And then
this is amazing.
It's pretty exciting to think about the implications of where we're at now in like caveman times of AI, basically, and then where this can go. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, because you're right. Like when you're prompt, actually, you really need to say, okay, I need to target this class, I need to target this ID, I need to target this element. But if I can get access to your project and say, okay, you don't need anything. I know you need to put that on this CSS class. I know you need to put that on this ID. You're like, okay, nice, let's do it.
Yeah, and dude, imagine this, right? We're currently typing stuff. What if you could just say, like, you could just speak and be like, okay, cool, I've got this slider which is on the homepage. Can you just make sure that works and it's mobile responsive? Yeah, of course, I'll do that for you now. Like, okay, I'm not saying that it needs to be a creepy voice, but it's pretty exciting to think, where this can go. And like I said, it's very early days. In the last couple of minutes, we've got a couple of questions. Lucas says, or Luca, maybe you're French, I don't know. Claire. Yeah, can't wait to see what's next for Slater. Awesome, Jeff. Slater is amazing. Great to hear. Jeff is pumping out awesome content. His game is insane as well. He's just entered the game challenge, so go check that out on Twitter.
And they are soon the result. They are soon the result for the game challenge.
Yeah, we're going to be doing the live stream in 2 hours' time. So, yeah, you'll be judged. Anyone that's entered who's watching, your projects will be on the big screen, and you'll be judged by Melissa Mendez, Claudia Cafe, Emily Linetto, and Mason. So that will be fun as well. That's why I'm wearing this kind of funky shirt, because I'm in like game host mode,
Nice. Good choice. Good choice.
And I also need to do a wash. Okay. No other questions coming in. Florian, do you have anything else to add as we wrap up this live stream?
First, thanks, Jake, for the invitation. It was a pleasure to meet you. Go into this live.
First time we met. Yeah. Weird.
Yeah, that was really cool. I enjoyed the time sharing. Thanks for the question you asked, and can't wait to see what's next, as you say, Jake.
Yeah, it's exciting to see where this all goes, and I'd love to actually get you on the Webflow podcast. I said this before this call, but we will have to set that up as well and get to know you further.
Definitely, it will be so nice.
All right, well, I'll send you a message, and I'm gonna spell the name of your agency right for the Webflow podcast as well, because if anyone is savvy, they may well have seen that I spelt the name of Digidop wrong. It's Digidop, everybody, not Digipop. God. Anyway, that's the wrap. End of the live stream. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you, Florian, for coming on. Thanks for everyone who's asking all these amazing questions in the chat. Dive into the Slack group, ask any questions, sign up for a free trial if you guys want to have a go and get involved. It's a good time to get involved, good time to make content, good time to start getting to grips with AI, because the robots are soon going to take over. Anything else to add?
Perfect.
Perfect.
It was a perfect ending of this podcast. Thanks, Jake.
Everyone's dropping off the live stream as I keep rambling. All right, loads of love, guys. Thanks, Florian. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. Bye bye.